Okay, once you have all your squares made, we're going to start mixing colors to add to the square. Start with underpainting. Mix a color that you like and paint that square just to leave it to dry until later. If you run out, mix a little more. We're going to leave that one to dry and we're going to come back to it. Then dry brush, just like it says, keeping only a small amount of paint on your brush. I'm going to change that color a little bit. I want to keep my brush relatively dry, so when I go across, I create an effect with just the bristles of the brush. So you want hardly any paint on your brush, just that residual paint on your brush for dry brush. Then we're going to do sgraffito. Mix your color, put it on pretty thick. Take the end of your brush, the back side of your brush, and you can carve lines or cut lines or do some drawings into this while the paint's still wet. Dries pretty quick, so you don't have that long to do it. So do it right away after you cover it. Then we have edge cut in. Take one color, and sometimes I like to draw a little, say I have a drawing going and I want to cut in on those edges. Then we'll take my brush loaded with paint, and I want to try to use the edge of the brush to cut in tight against that line. So I'm sort of pulling the paint along. And cutting in. With that color. Then I can rinse my brush and dry my brush, switch to a new color. Sometimes it's best to wait till the first color dries so you get a good cut in. But once you get a little more practiced, you can cut in even while the color's still wet and still get decent results. So in this one, you're going to be practicing cutting one edge and bringing it close and hugging that other edge. I could switch colors again. I could also switch brushes. If I'm doing my cut in and I'm saying that brush isn't working for me, I can go with a smaller brush if that helps me cut in better with my line. I do have a variety of brushes here, so if you say one brush isn't working for one of these techniques, please take a minute to switch your brush. This is about experimenting and exploring and finding out what works for you, so when you go to do a painting, you'll have that practice with these skills and techniques. After edge cut in, I'm gonna go to blending. Let's say I want to blend two colors together. I take my color, put it on. Now I want to switch. So I want to start adding a little bit of white to that color. And I want to start adding a little more white until I'm basically going with all white. I might have to clean my brush a couple times during this process so that I don't have it contaminated. Then using a dry brush, I like to go back and sort of blend away anywhere where it's too quick of a jump from dark to light. Key here is cleaning your brush each time, because I don't want to get white into this spot. So if my brush is clean in between, I'll hold on to that dark color. Also, it's important to hold some of that dark color in your palette in case you need to go back and touch up at the end. So you can blend from a color to white. You can also blend from a color to another color. So let's say I start with red, I want to go to purple. Again, be patient, practice. Sixth box is textures. Using different brushes, you can get different textures based on how quickly you move the brush. You can sort of dab the brush to create different textures. You can lay the brush flat on its side. You can try a smaller brush. Experiment and play here and see what you can get. Next box, we're going to do just a simple fill in and an outline. I'm going to start with my base color to fill in with, which is going to be this pinkish color. I'm going to create a shape. Take my pinkish color, fill it in. Again, I'm practicing my edging again. Make sure I made enough to fill that whole area. Then I'm going to take a contrasting color with my thinner brush, and I'm going to go around and outline this area just to really make it stand out. So I'm going to use a blue. Key when you're painting is trying to use the bristles. They're different than a pencil. The edge of your paint is almost the side of your bristles, not the middle. So you're going to do a fill in a shape and outline it. And the last one is wet onto wet. I'm going to start this one with some clean water. Just wet it with, well, mostly clean water. Just going to wet it. I could also do like a lift with a paper towel. Like if I just dabbed with a paper towel, I could lift some color out. But while it's wet, then I'm going to take my colors, and now when I paint on, I'm going to get a different effect. You'll notice that the edges don't come out as clean. And then I'll go back to that first one, which should be dry, my underpainting. And now I want to choose a contrasting color to go over that color to create. So sometimes by painting underneath, my next color can come out so much better. Or as I layer on top of that. And I can do blending on top of this. Or I could just do a line drawing. I could do dry brush. So these techniques can be combined with one another. But I want you to experiment with that kind of painting, letting it dry, and then painting over it. All right, there are 8 painting techniques. I can't wait to see what you get.